Hi guys, happy Sunday and welcome to my knitting podcast. And this week, I have kind of a lot to talk about. So I hope that this week has been treating you well, and I hope that you have gotten a lot of crafting time in. It's been kind of up and down with the weather, and I'm just super excited that March is started and we're going to be in spring, hopefully before we know it. So if you're new here, this is my knitting podcast, and my name is Mandy Vaughn, and you can find me on the internet under Mandy Vaughn Knits. I am on Instagram, Ravelry, and YouTube under that name. And welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and if you like to talk about knitting and crafting, then you've come to the right place. So, like I said, this week I've been doing all sorts of weird things. I even grabbed out my machine knit, I even machine knit this week, which is kind of weird and not something I've been doing a lot lately. So that was kind of exciting. I basically made a swatch, which is not very interesting, so I'm not going to show you it, but I've been playing around with lace weight yarn, and I'm super excited to make a lace weight sweater. And we're just gonna see how that goes, and maybe in a couple of weeks I'll have something kind of interesting to show you there. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is the Musselburgh that I finished for my son, and this is knit using Super Sock from Blackbird Sycamore Yarns, and the color is Red Room. And I really like this hat, and he does too, judging from the fact that as soon as it was done, he started wearing it, and I just borrowed it from him to record this. So I'm gonna put some pictures up here, and it fits him great. I've been kind of perfecting the style in which I do Musselburghs, because generally I make them oversized, and he is not a big oversized hat person. So I swatched, I followed directions, and it fits him really well. So I will continue making my hats bigger because I like them bigger, but for him I will definitely work at this hat. Let's see. My gauge on this hat was 7 stitches per inch, and I knit the adult medium. So that worked out perfect for him. Now, if you're not familiar with the Musselburgh pattern, it's basically tailored to picking whatever yarn you need to and just going from there. So you cast on up top, and you knit and follow the directions until you have about an inch to where you can gauge swatch, and then the pattern will tell you for your gauge exactly how many increases you need, and then it's super easy to figure out. So I do love the pattern, and I've used it multiple times, and I actually cast on another one, which I'm super excited about, but this is the one that I've been working on for maybe a month and a half. I did helical knitting on this. I did that because I'm not a big fan of pooling sometimes, and sometimes I am. I guess it just depends, but you can almost see this is really cool here. So we've got this, and then we have this. This is almost like exactly where the cuff band ribbing for the hat would normally be. So it's very cool how the yarn swapped to do that just for the ribbing part, and then it goes right back to here. This is a double-sided hat, so you basically just take one side and shove it into the other, and it will keep you nice and warm. Now this is fingering weight yarn, so I do tend to make Musselburghs with sock yarn with one exception, and I'm going to show you that in just a second, but he's excited about this, and I was excited to finish it. It doesn't take entirely long. It's more mindless knitting that I just carry around wherever I'm going, like if I have a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment or pretty much anywhere I can work on it, especially car rides. These are very good for car rides. My needle of choice for the Musselburgh for fingering weight yarn is a 3.25, and that tends to work very well for me. I like the fabric because it's not stiff. It's very I want to say loose, like loosey-goosey, but that's not what I mean. The stitches are perfectly fine. It's just, it's got a nice drape, right? See? But that is my finished object for the week, and I was super happy to finish this one. Now, immediately after I finished that Musselburgh, I cast on another one. Of course I did, because one of my ideas this year is to always keep a Musselburgh on the needles, just because I have so many skeins of sock yarn that are specifically for a Musselburgh that I could probably knit one for a basketball team and still keep going. So I'm gonna have to figure out who to give all these hats to. That is to be determined. I'm hoping that I can find a charity that will accept superwash wool. I know that with charitable knitting, it's kind of hard to knit with wool. Just because of all of the special care instructions. So I'm looking. I am looking. But this is the one that I cast on. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's fuzzy. Do you see the fuzz? Maybe, kind of. So I am knitting this from, I'm using Super Sock from Blackbird Sycamore Yarn. It's Jamberry. And I am also using, because I'm holding this together, Magical Mohair. It is 70% Super Kid Mohair, 30% silk. And it's also in the color Jamberry. And I'm going to show you this skein because it is amazing. Look at how fluffy it is. How pretty. I love it. It is so soft. This is soft. Now you can see both of them. They're just being held together. This changes my gauge on the Musselburgh to 5.5 stitches per inch. So I'm adjusting accordingly. And I cannot wait for this one. Now, I have a hat to show you because I've held this, not the exact combination together color-wise, but the yarn. I've held it. I've made a Musselburgh before with this yarn, right? So this is knit in Cleric, and this is a big hat, and I knit it big on purpose. And I believe I finished or worked on this last year while I was in the hospital. I love this hat. And I'm going to screw up my hair, but that's okay. So this is how it works. And I don't even have to take my clip off because that was on purpose. This hat is like wearing... Okay, so I'm trying to think of how to explain this. This yarn is so soft that... No, I can't explain it. You have to feel it to understand it, but this is a very, very soft yarn. And holding it together with Super Sock, the combination is amazing. The combination of these two yarns would make an amazing sweater. and it would feel like you're wearing a cloud. But I wear this hat all the time. This has like been my winter hat this year. And this is one of the Musselburghs that I actually made for myself that I got to keep. And you can see that the reason I got to keep it is because it's more reddish instead of pink. Because if this was pink, my daughter would have like borrowed it. Which is okay, that's perfectly fine. Like I tell her, we can share it, doesn't matter to me, but it just makes me happy that somebody gets to use it. This is definitely a super soft hat, and I have another combination of the super sock and the silk mohair, and it's in like hot pink, and I can't wait to make that. That's gonna be coming up here soon. So another plus about holding them together is it's quicker to knit, right? Because your gauge is bigger and you have less increases, and so it's good. I like it. I definitely love this hat. I actually, you know, I showed it to my son and he looks at me and he goes, "Oh, that's so soft." When I was showing him this last night, he's like, "Oh, that's so soft." And I started thinking, you know, maybe I should make him one with this, but I don't know if he's going to like it, right? Because it is kind of like poofy, like fluffy. I'll ask him and see what he thinks. Maybe maybe for next year's winter, I can knit him one. It would look very pretty in like a black or like a gray or a dark blue. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Like I said, I have a lot of just single skeins of sock yarn, and what better to use a single skein of sock yarn on than a hat, right? They're a lot of fun to knit, and they fit so well. And for some reason, I've always been super partial to completely stockinette hats. So these don't have ribbing, and I really like that look. I've always been like a big fan of it. Even if you don't want to do the completely double-sided, you could always like start off stockinette and then like tack down the bottom of it. So like say you knit just a little bit longer than a hat, you could tack down the bottom of it and double fold it in. What is this called? A hung hem? A folded over hem on a hat? That's what I'm thinking. Like you could fold over the hem on a hat. I am babbling awful today. I'm sorry. It's Sunday. It is, it's like 10 in the morning, and my mind is on, okay, we're gonna go outside. We've got to straighten up the yard and like just get ready for spring to be here. And I've also been told that my second cousin is having a baby, and they're having a boy. So the other part of my mind is thinking, okay guys, what kind of like self-striping acrylic yarn do I have so I can start making maybe a flax and a Musselburgh and a star blanket? So I guess we'll see. That's to be determined. I asked my husband if he could help me look later sometime today, and we'll get there when we get there. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm making this Musselburgh for my aunt who lives in Alaska. So I'm hoping that it will serve her very well, because it's going to be a nice and warm and squishy hat, and will hopefully be useful to her and keep her warm. So what else have I been working on? I know. So I've been working on this for a very long time, and it just doesn't seem like it's getting any longer. Oops, I dropped a skein. That's okay, I'll get it later. Let me straighten it out here because I blocked it. That's one thing that I needed to do. I had to block it to see what is going to happen growth-wise whenever it gets all blocked out, because you're supposed to knit 19 inches from the underarm, and I don't even remember how many inches from the underarm, but it's not 19. So there's that. It's not done yet. But this is what I've got so far, and it's getting longer and longer every time. But it's just not there yet. The arm is here, and we've got all the way down. So it did stretch out some. Stretch out is the wrong word. It relaxed some in the wash whenever... It relaxed some in the water, not the wash. I didn't wash this. It relaxed some in the water and kind of grew a little bit in length. So I am knitting this on a 3.5. Now, let's see. I'm knitting this on a 3.5. This is the Irish Gold cardigan by Joji Locatelli. And I am making a size 6 for my mom. And I'm hoping that she really likes it. And I haven't even told her I'm making it yet. So it's going to be a surprise, I guess. I wasn't intending it to be a surprise. But because it's fingering weight yarn, I'm basically not wanting to tell her until it's done because it's fingering weight yarn. So it's going to take a little bit. After I get 19 inches from the underarm, I will do ribbing. I believe the ribbing calls for like an inch, possibly. And once that's done, you cast on the sleeves. The reason, what was my reason for not doing the sleeves first this time? I think that it was just I'm helical knitting this and swapping back and forth from one color to the other to try to avoid any weird like color changes from different skeins because they're hand dyed. It just seemed like it was a good idea to get the body done. Plus we went to Frankenmuth and I decided, you know, I'm going to have a lot of knitting time, so it's good to get this work done. I've been excited to work on it though. Like I said, 3.5, and it's definitely really drapey and soft. So I'm super excited about giving it to her. I don't know how long the body is going to take me. I should be finishing it up. I'm going to have to measure it again. The last time I measured it, it was 13 inches, so maybe it's 14 now. I don't know. Like I said, I've been working on this hat, and I wanted to finish it, so my knitting mojo has been elsewhere, but I will definitely get this done. I'm thinking hopefully by... When is Easter? My mom wants my kids to come over and dye Easter eggs with her. So maybe I can bring this with her, or with them, and give it to her then. And that's a big if though, because I'm not sure. I think Easter's at the end of the month, and I don't know if I'm going to have it done by then. So we'll see. Anyways, it's super exciting. I'm hoping that she'll like it. So I have one more thing to show you, and it is going to be weird, so you have been warned. Do you remember last week when I said that what did I say? I said that I wanted to make an all over, well, not all over. I wanted to take a sock pattern and make sleeves for a sweater with it. Well, that wasn't a new idea. I had thought about it last year and had started actually working through this. And I'm going to show you what I worked through last year, so we can all laugh at how bad my color work is. I'm kidding, but it's not very good. I kind of wanted to show you the idea of what I was thinking though. So this is how one of the sleeves would be. And as you can see, this is why I need some help with color work. We've got a lot of different color changes here, and if you don't get it just right, it's going to be very bunchy. But this is the idea of the sweater, and I have oodles and oodles of different colors of mini skeins that should help out. It's just, like I said, working on carrying floats around and kind of working on tidying up my knitting. But it's very fun, and I'm going to love this sweater whenever it's done. Now, let me roll this up some. As you can see, the sock pattern itself kind of actually very nicely fits my arm, and that's actually not a coincidence. So what I did is I started off, I believe, I'm not even going to try to remember the numbers because like I said, this was last year sometime. I started off one size of the sock, and then as your arm width increases, I started adding more stitches to get to the next size of the sock. So whenever I sit down to actually make this, it will definitely take some forethought. But I wanted to show that because I did start this last year and kind of abandoned it because my color work was not looking all that great. Plus, I also was not very happy with some of the colors that I used, and I started thinking that some of these should be a different color and that this was, it doesn't matter, but this is my first prototype. And I thought it was at least worthy to show, just to kind of get the idea of how this might work out. It might have actually helped some if I blocked it, but like, blocking is nice, but it doesn't fix all this. It might just make it a little, like, 10%, 5% better, but it's definitely going to be fun whenever I get to it. It seems like I've worked on so much this week, but not enough. Let me talk about what I've been doing on the knitting machine and how it's kind of come out of nowhere. So I have a Silver Reed SK 480. I always get the numbers confused on them, but all that you really need to know is that it's a silver reed and it's standard gauge, so I can work with lace weight and fingering weight yarn. And there are outliers on both yarn weights that you can use. You just have to kind of work with the tension. So right now I've been looking at a couple of different patterns that are on Ravelry, and I'm going to put up a picture of one here. It is by a designer that I cannot remember, and I can't remember the name, so those things are going to go down here, and it's very pretty. And I really like this designer because they have a lot of free patterns, but the caveat of the free patterns is there aren't very many sizes for them. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not actually using the pattern to machine knit with it. I'm taking the general idea of the construction and probably the numbers and then trying to recreate it on my knitting machine, which might turn out to be a complete disaster. This is to be determined. I have not touched my knitting machine in over a year because, like I said, last year was very difficult health-wise, and I actually haven't touched it since I could stand. So it's been a while. It's kind of frustrating because I can't thread the yarn, because in order to thread the yarn you actually have to be able to stand to do it. So I'm kind of readjusting to asking for help for that, but that's neither here nor there. I'm working on this top in like a bright magenta just because it's some lace weight yarn that I have, and I think that it would be really cute. I will hopefully have a better update for you next week on that though. What else? What other knitting things have I been thinking? So like I said, my second cousin is having a baby, so I'm going to plan at least to make a star blanket and a star blanket. It's a crochet blanket in the shape of a star. It's one of my favorite patterns to make. I'm also thinking possibly a flax. I really love making flaxes. I think they're a great pattern, a staple pattern, and I will figure out when the baby is due and then kind of size the flax for the winter after, just because, I mean, there's no point in making a newborn flax if the baby is born in like July, right? Because it's hot then, nobody needs a sweater. And maybe a baby hat. I don't know though. I haven't really done very many baby hats. Usually if I make a baby hat, I'll stick with like a toddler sized Musselburgh, just because babies' heads grow. I mean, kids in general grow so fast, and a Musselburgh is a lot of knitting, so I feel like if you make it toddler size, then they're going to be able to wear it for a little bit. I don't know. My kids didn't grow super fast because my husband and I are both we're not both super short. We're shorter than average. I'm super short. But so my kids are short and they didn't grow as fast as like my my nephew did. My nephew is almost to the size, well, he was, not anymore, but a couple of years ago, my nephew and son were pretty close to the same size, but my son's like shot up since then. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can make a Musselburgh and a flax that will match and be close to the same size. So I guess we'll see. These are just things that are rolling around in my head. I have a little bit until I have to start worrying about that. I think that's all of the knitting and crochet and machine knitting stuff that I have to talk about this week. It seemed like I didn't talk about a lot, but it seems like I've been doing a ton, so I guess that is what it is. If I'm going to talk about just like 5 minutes of life stuff. If you don't want to stick around, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you could, please give this video a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you next week. So for this week, not much. It's just been a slow week. Happy March. Did you guys enjoy your extra day in February? I did not, but only because like it meant March was taking longer to get here. I have been working through my AWS class. I've been taking practice quizzes and all of that stuff. What did I read? I read a book called Leave the World Behind, and it's actually a Netflix movie, and I haven't seen the Netflix movie. I read the book. I actually read it on Friday, and I blew through the book super fast. It made me sad at the end, and it made me very contemplative about the story. So if you don't want to read like a book that'll make you think, or a book that'll make you forlorn, there's a lot of cultural, like societal stuff that's mentioned in the book. There's things talking about global warming and all the needless fighting and wars. It's not preachy, but it just makes me sad to hear about that stuff, because as a person in America, as a person, we don't have a lot of say in what our government does. It seems like we do, but we really don't. Especially just one person, you know? We can't say, hey guys, we shouldn't be doing this, because nobody's gonna listen to us. Other than that, I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden, which also made me sad, but in a different way. There's definitely inappropriate relationships between like student and teachers in that book. So if that makes you uncomfortable, I don't suggest reading it. It made me uncomfortable, but I still finished the book, and it was okay. I do like her books whenever I'm feeling like I need something just to read entertainment wise. I think I'm sure I've read other books, but I can't remember them. I'm reading the book One of Us is Lying right now, and I have no clue who wrote that, but it is about 4 high school students who get put in detention with this other guy who is the author of a gossip app, and the guy ends up getting killed in detention, and all the other 4 students are a suspect, and it's nothing very serious. It's just like I don't want to say lighthearted. It's definitely a book that, like, I don't even know. I don't know what words I'm trying to use to describe the book, but it's not a serious book. It's like just a book that I'd read whenever I need to just not think about anything. So it's definitely a good thing in that department. That's pretty much it on this front. We've been very happy that spring is kind of here. I can't wait for, I don't want to say I can't wait for April, but I'm kind of excited about it. My son has been very interested in gardening. He was very interested in gardening last year, and he had his own little tiny garden where he had tomatoes and bell peppers and just all sorts of herbs. So he was very excited to do that. I have ordered something off of Amazon. I have ordered a spider plant from a farm that sells them on Amazon, and I am very scared to have the spider plant because I am very bad at growing things and keeping them alive. And I've had one cactus in the last couple of years that my cat decided to yank out of the pot and kill. So I'm hoping that she's very nice to the spider plant. I also know that spider plants don't hurt cats, so that was one of the reasons that I picked that particular plant. The other reason is that when I was little growing up, we always had a spider plant in the house. So it kind of reminds me of just a simpler time, right? Simpler in some ways and harder in others. But I've always really liked spider plants, and I've kind of convinced myself that maybe I can do this. So I guess we'll see. I don't have a green thumb, so keep your fingers crossed for me. Anyways, that's all for life. I hope that you guys are having an awesome week and enjoying the weekend and looking forward to next weekend because you guys won't see this until Tuesday. I hope that everything is going well for you, and if you could, please give this video a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. It will help in YouTube's algorithm to show it to other people who like knitting or crochet or machine knitting as well. I would appreciate it. Thank you guys for stopping by, and I hope that you have a great week. Thank you. Bye.